Lindsay and you're watching Linsika Adventure, and today we are adventuring through another story like we do every single Friday. This time it's less of an individual Bible story, more of a bunch of Bible themes, verses, what have you, that are sort of entwined in my story for around about the past year. So let's jump straight into it. I'm going to give you some background information. I'm a bit of a dreamer. Quite a bit of a dreamer, unfortunately, for me, with my brain, and when I want to sleep, and I just have lots of dreams. Ever since I was a little kid, I've just had lots of dreams, like a bunch every night. There's only been a couple of nights in my entire life that I've woken up in the morning going, oh, I don't think I had a dream. That's interesting. Nice. But in general, like, I have just lots of dreams, and I didn't realize till quite recently, in the past year or so, that I'm not the only one who gets lots of dreams. And, the prophet Joel in the Old Testament talked about, in the last days, people are going to have lots of dreams and visions and whatnot. And I have a bunch of them. So, basically, I have a lot more dreams than anything else. I have had a few visions and other things as well, but mostly dreams. It's the way I usually get my communication from God. And not all my dreams are from God. Some of them are just like pizza dreams or something. But I want to share with you a couple of dreams that I'm pretty sure I know are from God. And so let's get straight into them. So the first one is a bit short and sweet and kind of sad. Not sad like you want to cry, but anyway, I'll just tell you. So the first dream, it was about 2 a.m. I woke up from this dream, and it was about a year ago now. I'm not exactly sure when. I don't usually write down my dreams, take much note of them or date them or anything like that. Occasionally I do, and that's handy, and you guys should totally do that. Don't follow my footsteps of, not marking down the dates and writing all the information down, because it is very helpful. I just haven't bothered with some of them. So this one happened, I remember it was around about 2 a.m. And it was one of those nights where you're just like tossing and turning, and you're sort of half asleep, half awake. You've got all these thoughts churning through your mind that are sort of like trying to sort themselves out and processing and all that kind of stuff. And it was like a stormy night as well. So there was a lot going on. But yeah, I remember right before I woke up, I had this very short piece of a dream where I was in this line. There was lots of people in a line, and I went up to the booth, and this lady gave me my portion of something. It was like she was giving out portions of things to people. And I knew it was my portion, like that word portion. And I didn't see what it was. And as I woke up immediately after that, I heard the words Kadesh Barnea. And I was like, okay, I'm enough of a Bible nerd to know that Kadesh Barnea is a place in the Bible. And I didn't really know much more than that. So at 2 a.m. I was like blearily waking up and checked my phone. Yep, it's 2 a.m. And I started typing in Google, like, what is Kadesh Barnea? And for the next hour, I came across a bunch of articles and did my research. And it's a place in the south of Israel. Like just at the edge of the desert. And it's this place where the Israelites consistently disobeyed God, in a nutshell. Right after the Israelites, during the Exodus, they've just left Egypt. They've come, on their journey towards the promised land, but they get to this place and they disobey God, they rebel. They are scared to go into the promised land, even though, they've sent the spies in there, and 10 come back with like a scary report, and 2 come back saying, no, we can do it. But they're like, no, let's not go. And then God's like, all right, well, we're going to go off into the wilderness now. And then the Israelites are like, no, let's go into the promised land now. Like, after he said, we're going the opposite direction now. And so they rebel a second time in a row, like on the same day or the next day or whatever. And they get smashed by the hill people in the promised land. And so that happens, and then a while later they come back to the same spot, and I think that's where Miriam speaks out against Moses, and she gets struck with leprosy, and there's a whole bunch of things going on. where the Israelites and the leaders of the Israelites and everyone are just consistently disobeying God. And so Kadesh Barnea is starting to not look like a really great place. And I was thinking to myself at this point, 3 a.m., I don't think this was a good dream for me. Yeah. So I'm not sure if this dream happened before or after the next one. They happened around about the same sort of time, around about a year ago. I'm not exactly sure when. So the second dream, it's a bit longer, so stick with me for a minute. So the second dream, I was in a car. So sometimes I have a dream that I'm driving a car. And so I was on this highway and it was sort of going straight ahead and then slightly curving up towards the right, off into the distance. And I knew I wanted to go along this road. It was the right thing to do. And there was a car in front of me in the right-hand lane. There was nobody in the left-hand lane. It was just me and this other car right ahead of me in the right-hand lane. And there was a set of traffic lights and the lights were green. And so I was like, all right, let's go. And generally a highway like this in Australia is at least 80 kilometers an hour is the speed limit. And so I was like, yeah, it's an 80k zone, let's go. But the car in front of me decided to putter along at about 60 kilometers an hour or something. And I was going, guys, like, hurry up. And I'm still like this today. I just like to zoom around and there's people who are slow. And so I like to overtake them. And it's just part of my daily life is overtaking a bunch of people on the highway. And so I was having this dream that there was this car in front of me. It was going super slow in a quick zone, like hurry up. And so I putted along behind it for a minute, kind of knowing I was supposed to stay in the right-hand lane for whatever reason. But eventually I was just like annoyed. And so I was like, oh, it'll be fine. I'll just like zip around in the left-hand lane, overtake and be on my merry way, be without this slowpoke in front of me. But as soon as I went into the left-hand lane no longer went straight ahead to the direction I was planning on going on. It actually curved around, like completely like U-turned around, and it was like slipping onto a new highway going the opposite direction. So I was, going pretty fast onto this slipping lane into a completely different highway. And as I arrived on this new highway, there was all of these cars and huge trucks sort of bearing down on me, coming straight at me. And that was quite scary. And I remember just sort of like looking up at these huge looming cars and trucks just kind of bearing down on me. And at this point, the car was no longer a car. I was on a little push bike. And so I was vulnerable and out in the open, and I felt like I was kind of getting smashed and tossed around by these huge cars and trucks. And so that didn't last very long. I was now off on the side of the road on this new highway, all the cars and trucks rushing past, and my bike, the wheel, I don't know if the tire popped or what happened, but it was broken and I couldn't go anywhere. Now at this point, it gets even more interesting. Some people popped up on the side of the road with me, and there were 3 people. So the first person was a girl that I went to university with and also ended up working with at the same school for the past couple of years. I'm not quite sure what she's supposed to represent. I have some ideas. The second person was a guy who, I'm pretty sure we went to the same uni, but at different times. Like, he graduated before me, but he was, the only place I remember him from was a church that we both attended. I've been to a bunch of different churches over the past few years. I've moved around quite a bit. And this particular church, I was quite involved in it for a short period of time. I was there for about 8 months and I was very involved. I was volunteering at all these different parts of the ministries in the church, and doing a lot, but also not feeling very connected to the people in the church. And so this guy, I guess, represents that environment. And then the third person, the first girl, so she was at uni and the same job as me. At uni, I remember I got really sick one time, really out of the blue. It was just like good 1 minute when I got up in the morning, felt terrible, fell down, and she was sort of in a leadership position and she had to take me to the hospital. It was like a whole adventure just getting me to the hospital because we borrowed somebody's car and the car broke down and we had to get a different one to come get us, to take us all the way to the hospital, and it was crazy. But she kind of looked after me in that setting. And then there was this guy from this church, and now they were sort of under one of those little pop-up gazebo things. I'm not quite sure what they're called off the top of my head, but those like fold-out ones that you have at fair days and booths and whatever. I remember they were under this gazebo thing, and they were cooking chicken fajitas, which to me stood out in my mind at the time because I was a vegan at that time. Since COVID happened, I've eaten a lot of McDonald's and haven't been a very good vegan recently, but we'll get there again one day. But yeah, so they were cooking me chicken fajitas. They were looking after me in the best way they could, in a way that I wasn't expecting or really sure I wanted them to. And then the third person popped up, and she was somebody I didn't recognize at all. So she overall kind of probably would have looked something like me, but just some slender, tall, like ice blonde woman with a pixie cut. And I remember she was some sort of like counselor or youth pastor or something, maybe even an angel. I wasn't quite sure what she was. But she came over and checked out my bike, and she was like, I can fix this for you. But it'll cost you about $320 or something like that. And while I was dreaming, I was thinking to myself, oh, okay, knowing that in waking life at that exact same time, like the me that was sleeping in the bed a year ago, I had about that exact number of, like, that amount of money in my bank account. Like, that's all I had to my name, was about $300 odd. And so I was like, okay, so basically the money that she required to fix my bike for me was all that I had. And I could technically afford it, but like it would just be everything. It would take a lot from me. It would take all that I had to invest in this fixing of this bike so I could get back on my way. So it was gonna be almost like a sacrifice for me in a sense. I could afford it, I could do it, but yeah, it was just gonna take everything. And then I think the dream ended with me asking her, or all three of them, for directions to basically get back onto the highway that I wanted to go on in the first place. And the dream ended before that really happened. Like, I was sort of heading back in that direction. So the bike was fixed, I paid the money, and yeah, sort of started heading back in the right direction. So there's a few things going on in these two dreams. Neither of them are particularly enjoyable. The first one with Kadesh Barnea reminds me a lot of the wilderness wanderings and sort of the beginning of that journey. And in a similar sense, the second dream with the car and the bike breaking down, going off in the wrong direction, yeah, because the second dream where I was trying to overtake, I was trying to go too quickly, trying to go past the pace that was set. I thought I could go at, a much higher speed to get in the direction, I guess the promises that God has given me. And I was so fixated and focused on that direction that I wanted to go in that I went beyond the speed that he had set, the pace that he had set, with this little car puttering along in front of me. And I was just frustrated with that. And because I was trying to rush past God's timing, I ended up going in this direction which required a lot of support from outside people in outside situations, and would require everything from me to be involved in this process of being looked after and also having my bike fixed. So that healing journey that I needed to go on. Yeah, so Kadesh Barnea, in a nutshell, basically was God's indication to me that you're beginning your wilderness wandering journey. And for those of you out there who know much about sort of the wilderness season that some Christians seem to talk about, it's nobody's favorite season ever. And to be honest, over the past year, like those next 6 months to the end of last year were really, really rough. Like one of the worst periods of my life. Around about the same time that I had these dreams, probably a bit before I had them, I was having suicidal thoughts. COVID was really knocking me around, just with society shutting down and me living in a brand new city and all of these kinds of things. Was really, really tough for me to experience, and it only got worse as the year went on, with like an extended lockdown period. We had like a 4-month lockdown here in Melbourne during the middle of winter, which is already dreary and grey enough to begin with in Melbourne, but just to add lockdown on top of that with basically no support around me, was super tough. And I ended up quitting the job that I was in. And since then I've gotten like another 2 jobs that I'm working, which I love. But at the time it was just a really low period of my life. I was, seeing counseling and all these kinds of things, and I wasn't enjoying that. It was really hard for me to go to counseling and try to find some value in it. So I've been on this journey, this wilderness journey that I really was not enjoying. And it's gotten better recently, but I feel like I'm not sure if I'm out of it or if I'm in like this new season where things are much better, if the wilderness season is over, or like there's still things that are being worked out. There are still things that come up that are tough. And I've shared a few of those things with you in previous videos if you want to go check them out. But basically, yeah, this wilderness journey began with the portion of Kadesh Barnea being given to me in that first dream. And the second dream I just told you was more about God sort of showing me that, hey, you're trying to go too fast. You need to like stick to the pace that I've set for you. And you're not doing that. And so because of that, we're going to have to go off in this direction, and you're going to get pretty smashed and it's going to feel terrible. But I'm going to give you people to support you, and I'm going to give you resources to support you, but you're going to have to really invest and really focus on this healing journey. And that is so tough. Like going through emotional and spiritual healing and like unpacking baggage, like now I'm starting to do that more intentionally with, generational ties and all that kind of stuff like we discussed last week. It's not fun. It's not pretty. And half the time I'm sitting on the floor and crying and going, God, this is very hard. I don't want to do this. But honestly, like yesterday, like last night at midnight, we began our 5th lockdown in Melbourne. Woohoo! Technically they're saying it's going to be for 5 days, but Melbourne lockdown always goes longer than they tell us to begin with, so we'll see. And honestly, I was so excited the last couple of weeks. I started ballet classes for the first time last Friday, and I was so excited for my second class today, and like they gave us lockdown last night, so I couldn't do that. And so I was just like, lockdowns are going away, it's great, and I was on top of the world. And then this morning, lockdown was beginning again, and we don't know how long that's going to go. And it was just like really weighing heavily on me. Like I was feeling in like this depression sort of funk for like most of like the major part of earlier today. And it was just really, really rough. And I had to just sit here and talk to God about a whole bunch of stuff until eventually I felt his presence and I felt like his peace and joy. I played with the cats for a bit and they're ridiculously cute, so that helped me get out of it a bit as well. And so it's just like this constant journey. I remember learning while I was studying to become a chaplain a few years ago, this diagram is just kind of popping up to me in my mind of the process of, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like this healing process from unhelpful behaviors, basically, when you're dealing with people with mental health. And this happens for literally everyone, where the person will begin the journey of healing and then they'll have moments where they relapse, and then they'll sort of go back to the beginning and they'll sort of go through the process a bit further and they might relapse again. And it's just sort of always this give and take of growing and it gets really hard, and then you sort of go back to old ways, and then you keep trying to grow some more and heal some more, and it's just like this constant messy, horrible kind of situation. And that's just the way it is, even for us as Christians, where, you know, Jesus has saved us, set us free, all that kind of stuff. We're still on this journey of healing from all of our stuff. And it's not pretty, and we can't just go to church and say, you know, I'm happy, everyone, have a lovely day, all that kind of stuff, and just be fake about it. Like, we have to be super real with ourselves. If we're going to be real with God, we have to be real with ourselves first. One thing that's really stood out to me over this period of time is love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength. How can you love God unless you know all those parts of yourself, with like, unless you know your soul, your mind, all those kinds of things? If you don't know what's going on within you, you can't invite Jesus into those places within you. So one of the things that I'm going through at the moment is like a soul healing journey. I never thought I would, you know, do something by Joyce Meyer. I don't know, I just tend to avoid the big preachers sometimes. If everyone knows them and loves them, I kind of just walk the opposite direction sometimes, just rebellious within myself. But God led me to a Joyce Meyer soul healing journal, sorry. And I'm going through that really slowly because it's tough and I don't want to do the questions on the sheet and all these kind of things. But guys, check it out if you feel the need to begin this journey. It's pretty good. It's a good prompt. It's a safe place for you to get all the things out of your brain, and begin that journey of chatting with God about what's going on inside of you. It's not fun, but it's so good. Like, for like 6 or 7 hours this morning, I was feeling really gross and hating life and thinking that people didn't like me and all these kinds of things, and eventually just came back to my room and cried for a while. I cry basically every day. It's not something for you guys to be concerned about. I've got lots of emotion, guys. So I came and cried and I chatted with God, and I was like, you know, just ugly crying basically, and just chose to be in that space with God, and basically tried to remember and allowed God to remind me of, you know, his eternal love for me. That was one of the things that came to mind, that, hey, I've loved you with an everlasting love. I'm like, yeah, true, you did too. And, you know, his mercies are new every morning, and all of these just loving, kind things that he wanted to tell me. And that, you know, as I kept telling him why I was so frustrated or upset about everything, so dramatic, guys. God can handle the drama, it's fine. As I was sort of unpacking these things, I noticed myself feeling better. And like, it was a grey, cloudy morning, and I know this wasn't necessarily, you know, miraculous or whatever, but it was grey and dreary. And then by the time I'd finished like praying and started feeling better, I noticed there was like a sun shower outside. It was still raining gently, but the sun was streaming through. It was really beautiful, and there was a huge, like, massive rainbow out the other side, and I was like, that's nice, thank you. And so yeah, I basically just want to share this with you guys, that I'm on my own journey. Want to be super clear with you all about that. And everyone out there, all of you guys need to be on your own journey with God. You need to be engaging in the emotions that pop up with you all day, every day. Like, really just tune in and like go, what am I feeling in my body or in my emotions? If you can't figure out what your emotions are, just try and feel the sensations in your body to start with. And as you're tuning in and feeling these things, say, hey God, this is what I'm feeling. Can you please come and help me with this? Can you, like, I don't know, take it away or help me to know that you're with me? Whatever works for you. Like, just chat to God about your feelings. It's really important. And yeah, the thing with the wilderness wanderings, for like the wilderness season or whatever you want to call it, it ended eventually, and the Israelites did get to the promised land. And I'm really keen to get to my promised land. If I'm not halfway in it already, I'm not quite sure. Yeah, like, there is an end point to like the really major, terrible, horrible kinds of parts of the wilderness journey. Beyond that, there is still the warring to, you know, take control of the promised land. I think that's probably more where I'm at the moment, is that space of, you know, conquering the promised land. But yeah, that wilderness journey, it doesn't last forever, guys. You won't have to be stuck in it forever, but there will be constant little skirmishes that come up as you're taking over your promised land. If God has given you a promise, which is honestly given to everyone, you just need to tune in to hear his voice if you haven't sort of got a better idea of what it is already. Listen to him, find out what he's calling you to do, and then know that you're going to be on a journey to get there. He can't take you from here to here without going through all the mud in the middle. If you want to hear more on this topic, you can go check out the video that I did about Joseph. It's one of my earlier videos, probably like the 4th one or something. And yeah, thank you so much for listening to me tell you all about my brain. And yeah, I pray that you have a really blessed weekend, and I will see you again next Friday. Love you guys. Bye.